Life can be overwhelming. Wouldn't it be nice if there was something that could help you find some peace in the midst of all this chaos? Well, there is, and it's called mindfulness. Mindfulness is something that you can practice to help you find more calm, clarity, and focus. In this fast-paced world with the high demands, the constant buzz of social media, just so many things always stressing us out and taking our attention, mindfulness is something that can help you find peace and calm in the midst of all of that. If you are into personal development, self-improvement, or mental health at all, you've probably heard of mindfulness, and maybe you've wondered what it is. Well, if you have, then this is the video for you, because I'm going to break down mindfulness. I'm going to talk about why it matters, and I'm going to describe the 5 main pillars of mindfulness that can change the way you live, the way you love, and the way you breathe. Mindfulness is a concept that's literally been around for thousands of years. It originated in Eastern cultures, but it's something that is relevant for our lives today. Mindfulness can be defined as being fully aware in the present moment without judgment. Now, mindfulness isn't about trying to clear your mind or trying to escape reality. Those are some of the images that people have of mindfulness, right? You imagine the yogi, sitting on a cushion in a monastery, saying Om the whole time, but that's not really what mindfulness is. Now, mindfulness does include tools like mindfulness meditation, like mindful breathing, mindful observation. So mindfulness teaches these practical tools to help focus your mind, to help gain more clarity, more attention in the present moment. And by doing that, it can help you feel a greater sense of peace and calm. Mindfulness is an evidence-based practice, meaning there's lots of research that shows it is effective. For example, with physical health, mindfulness has been shown to decrease blood pressure, to improve sleep quality, to help people deal with chronic pain, and to boost the immune system. From a psychological point of view, it has been shown to decrease depression, decrease anxiety, and decrease stress. And these are just a few of the documented benefits of mindfulness. Let's break down the 5 main pillars of mindfulness. Now, these are the things that form the foundation of mindfulness as a practice. And the 5 areas are awareness, presence, non-judgment, acceptance, and compassion. So let's start with the first one, which is awareness. What does that mean? Awareness from a mindfulness perspective means being fully conscious of what is going on around you. And it involves awareness of both what's happening to you internally, so with things like your bodily sensations, your feelings, your thoughts, but it also involves being aware of what's going on around you in your environment. So for example, actually this one is a combination of bodily sensations and what's going on in the environment. So right now I'm a little bit chilly. So I can think, in my environment, I don't have the air conditioning on, but today the weather outside is just a little bit cloudy. I can look out my window here. It's a little bit cloudy. It's a little bit chilly today. That's just being aware. Again, we become more conscious. We pay attention. We're more focused on what's happening both internally and externally. The second main pillar of mindfulness is non-judgment, or to be non-judgmental. What does that mean? That means we resist the urge to criticize or to evaluate things as being either good or bad. They just are. I could use the example of me being a little bit hungry right now. I might think, oh man, I can get down on myself and be like, oh, I should have eaten something. Why did I skip breakfast? Now I'm feeling depleted because I haven't had any food yet. That's being judgmental. Whereas with mindfulness, again, I become aware and I just notice that I'm hungry, but I don't evaluate it as being either good or bad. I could also use the example of I'm a little bit chilly, the weather's kind of cloudy and cool outside, I wish it was warmer. That right there was a judgment, right? To look outside and be like, oh, it's gloomy today, it's chilly, I wish the weather would hurry up and get warmer, why isn't the sun out today? All of those things are judgments. So with mindfulness, it's helpful when we can suspend that judgment and not evaluate something as being either good or bad. It just is. The third main pillar of mindfulness is presence, or being present. A lot of times we get so caught up in our heads, and often what we're doing is we're really focused on the past, that maybe we're thinking about something that happened before, we're ruminating about it, we're regretting it, right? Like if something happened at work, maybe you had a little tense moment or a disagreement with a coworker, what are you doing later on? You may come home in the evening and keep going over and over that interaction in your head. And instead of like being present in this moment, hey, you're off work, you don't have to think about work anymore. Or some people, we get so caught up in worrying about the future, about things that haven't happened yet. And we're predicting, we're thinking, well, what if this happens? Or what if that happens? And sometimes we catastrophize and we imagine that the worst is happening. So some people describe it as depression being too much focused on the past and anxiety as being too worried about the future. Well, what happened to the present? And that's what mindfulness encourages us to do, to be more focused in the present moment. The fourth main pillar of mindfulness is acceptance. And acceptance means just what it says, accepting things the way that they are. It means that we don't try to jump in there to fix it or change it. We accept it the way that it is. And all of these pillars are really related, because you might think, well, that's close to awareness. Yes. So it means that we notice something, we are aware that it's happening, and it's also connected to non-judgment, meaning we don't judge it, we don't evaluate it as being good or bad. But what acceptance adds in is that part about how we don't try to jump in there and change it or fix it, or we don't spend time wishing that it was different. Let's be clear. Acceptance doesn't mean that we have to like everything, and it doesn't mean that we have to accept things that we don't like. You know, if it's something that's bad for our mental health, or it's something abusive or toxic, absolutely, we do not have to accept that. And it doesn't mean that we don't try to change. That is a big part of personal development, self-improvement, mental health, is that we are trying to do things to better ourselves and better our situations. But sometimes there are things that are simply out of our control. There's nothing that we can do about it, or things that just aren't worth our time and our energy to try to change. For example, if you have that coworker who does something that's really annoying, I don't know, maybe they sit there and they chew gum really loudly all day, and you might sit there and think, oh, that's so annoying. Why does that person, I've asked that person to stop chewing gum, they're still chewing it. What in the world is wrong with that person? Mindfulness would say, yes, we're aware, we notice it. We notice this person is chewing gum. Non-judgment would say, we don't evaluate it as being good or bad. So if we're sitting there saying, oh, that's so annoying, that's actually a judgment. It would say that we just accept it for what it is, right? It's something that's out of our control. There's nothing we can do about it. It just is what it is. And that's a saying that I use with my clients sometimes, right? When we start talking about those things that are out of their control, sometimes we just say, you know what? It is what it is. Pillar number 5 for mindfulness, another one of the foundational concepts, is compassion. And compassion is the one that really brings in sort of that human element. Maybe the other 4 pillars sounded a little dry or a little detached up to this point, but they're not, because they also occur, or these are practices that we use, attitudes that we have that really also take place in the context of compassion. And what is compassion? Compassion is a very deep sense of caring for ourselves and for other people. Other words that we might use besides compassion, as I said, caring, kindness, grace. People also talk about compassion as being like loving kindness in action. When we feel compassion for our fellow human beings, it moves us to act, to do something to take care of that person. And if we're showing self-compassion, it moves us to act, to do something loving and kind for ourselves. Maybe mindfulness also sounds to you like a little too good to be true, right? Like maybe it's a little pie in the sky, too positive. But actually it's not, because compassion also relates to suffering. And that when we see people around us, the world around us, and we see pain and we see suffering, again, compassion says that we feel compelled to move and to do something. If we're able to, we can do something to help relieve that suffering. But sometimes there are things that are out of our control and maybe we can't do anything about it. What mindfulness compassion would say is that we also sit down with people and we connect with them on that level of their suffering and their pain. And compassion in regards to suffering also applies to ourselves. That when we are suffering, when we are feeling pain, when we are depressed, sometimes we need to just show ourselves that compassion. Again, maybe not try to immediately get rid of it or deny it or push it away, but sometimes sitting down, acknowledging it, recognizing it, feeling it, showing ourselves some care and concern and some love and some grace. Sometimes that's what we need to be able to start on our path to healing. So mindfulness practice is like developing a muscle. Notice the word practice. Whenever you're trying to get better at something, you have to practice it. You're not just going to jump right into it and do it perfectly. It requires doing it over and over again. And as you keep doing it, it will become easier and you will get better at it. Here are some simple things that you can do to get started. One example is mindful breathing. You can just become conscious of your breath and your breathing. That might mean just taking a pause in your day to take a few deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. Just a few cleansing breaths. And another example would be mindful walking, that you can go out for a walk, and while you're walking, take time to just be more aware, to be in the present moment. A mindfulness exercise that's very helpful with that is the 5 senses exercise, where you count and you notice 5 things related to each of your senses. So 5 things you can see, you can smell, touch, taste, and hear. You can also take time to pause during the day to notice your bodily sensations. Just pay attention, just sit and pause and be still for a moment and notice, how am I feeling? Start from the top of your head and work your way down, all the way down to your toes, and just notice, do I feel tension? Do I feel pain? Do I feel relaxed? Does it feel good? So that's another example. You can also do the same thing with your thoughts, just to pause and take time to notice your thoughts. That was an interesting thought that I just had, and apply the principles, right? You become aware of the thought, you notice it in the present moment without judgment, and you just accept it. And whatever the thought was, you show compassion to yourself as you're having that thought. So these are several simple ways that you can start putting mindfulness to practice today and start living your life with more peace and more calm and more focus. And if you liked this video and you want to know more about mindfulness and get more help in starting your own mindfulness practice, be sure to visit my channel, because I have several videos that go over some of these practices, like the deep breathing, body scan, meditation. So be sure to visit my channel and subscribe to learn more about mindfulness and other mental health tips. And I'd love to hear from you. So be sure to leave a comment below and let me know, have you tried any mindfulness exercises? If you did, how did they go? Do you have any questions about how to get started or how mindfulness works? So be sure to leave me a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.